Yuma, hello, welcome everyone. I'm Mary-Anne Cosgrove. I'm the chair of Humanists Australia. I was its founding chair. I stepped out for a little while and I resumed the chair role in November last year. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that I live, work and play on Ngunnawal and Ngambri land and sovereignty was never ceded. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. And I welcome any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here with us today. I will share my screen as I have a slide deck to show you. Tonight's presentation is about the 2023 to 2025 edition of Humanists Australia's strategic plan. So first, let's take a look at the foundations. Where did this strategic plan come from? What were its predecessors? From 2019 to 2022, Humanists Australia was founded by a working group, which included people from around Australia. We developed its vision, mission, and values, which still guide the organisation today. It was a network of people who formed a company limited by guarantee. We obtained registered charity status and set up the Humanists Australia website and bank accounts and accounting system and membership management and ability to collect donations. The vision that we settled on was we envisage a future where every Australian knows what humanism is and can join a supportive, inclusive humanist community and we're an influential voice affecting positive social change in keeping with humanist values. Our mission was divided into 4 mission goals. These mission goals are written into our constitution and they are the charitable purposes under which we achieved a registered charity status. And they are educating all Australians about humanism as a framework for an ethical, meaningful and fulfilling life, encouraging the formation of and providing support for diverse and inclusive humanist communities around Australia, supporting people persecuted as a result of their humanist beliefs, and advocating for policies that reduce societal inequalities, advance secularism, advance human rights, and improve quality of life, guided by reason and evidence. We articulated 9 values, which are compassion, community, reason, diversity, resolve, integrity, culture, environment, and forgiveness. And you can read more about what these values mean to us on our website. In 2021, Humanists Australia's first CEO, Dr. prepared our first strategic plan. She articulated 5 programs, which were campaigns, ceremonies, chaplaincy, communities, and communication. Heidi recommended deferring communities to year 2 and 3 of the organisation while she focused on obtaining financial sustainability for the organisation, particularly through the Ceremonies program. Did anyone have any questions so far? Do feel free to put your questions into the chat at any time. So let's fast forward now through to January of 2023. At that time, we had around 2,100 subscribers, 450 members, of whom 160 are paying members. And the reason that we have some free memberships is because we initially started with a free membership plan and then transitioned to a paid membership model. As far as campaigns go, we list 4 campaigns on the Humanists Australia website and have collaborated with other secular groups on the Census No Religion campaign. Campaigns give us opportunities for member engagement and also for publication in the mainstream media. We have seen big bumps in subscriber numbers with every article published. So far, there's only been a few of those. More media coverage is critical for getting a Wikipedia entry on Humanists Australia, which would also help us draw more subscribers. For Ceremonies, we have developed a Ceremonies website where celebrants can list their profiles. The site was originally created to focus on marriages. Chaplaincy, now known as Wellbeing. The only visible action taken so far by Humanists Australia on wellbeing is the 5th dot point in the text of a petition for secularity. So it hasn't progressed very far yet. Communities was on the back burner of Heidi's strategic plan, so there was nothing in place for communities in early 2023. Communication was focused on the fortnightly e-newsletter, which has a high open and click rate. Also, the Australian Humanist magazine, which now has an online presence via a platform called Medium. For financial sustainability, we were receiving some monthly income from paying members, but are mainly reliant on our big donors at this stage. Staff and capability development, we now have 2 part-time staff. Humanists Australia has utilised external contractors for a variety of functions, for example, setting up the celebrants website. Some other points to note is that the quiz, the How Humanist Are You quiz, has been very successful at bringing in subscribers. The subscribers to members to paying members pipeline had been supported by some paid fundraisers. So this is the situation that we had when I resumed the chair role I resumed the chair role in November, and this is where we are at the beginning of this year. We've identified a number of opportunities for growth. So these are ways that we can bring in more members, possibilities. As far as communities go, our society has a strong need for communities to take the place of the religious communities that have dominated in the past. We are now developing a process for training and accrediting community leaders across the country. We have 3 pilot communities to prove the process in Perth, Canberra, and Central Melbourne. There is potential for local communities to drive strong membership growth for HA by offering events of interest to those who share our values but don't yet know that they're humanists. Events could be free for HA members and paid for non-members. Communities could offer peer support for mental well-being through accredited support people embedded in communities. Communities have the potential to attract donors as well. Ceremonies. With the foundations for the infrastructure to support ceremonies in place, we need to take advantage of that and bring in more celebrants and customers. Pivoting from marriages to funerals or celebrations of life seems more likely to lead to sustainable income. We're currently engaged in modifying the pricing structure and ceremonies website to support this pivot. To encourage more subscribers to become members, we're developing a compelling offering of member benefits and opportunities for engagement. We've run surveys to understand the priorities, interests, and opinions of our members and subscribers, and will continue to give you opportunities for, to provide feedback via polls and also via member circle events. We are now running national Humanists Australia branded events via Zoom, including What is Humanism and a members circle, guest speakers and others. Some events will be free for members and with a nominal charge for non-members. Others will be for members only. Humanists Australia has traditionally focused on Twitter and Facebook social media. Twitter is becoming increasingly out of alignment with HA values. Facebook has worked in bringing in subscribers via the quiz, but there's an opportunity to reach a younger audience via Instagram and maybe TikTok. Campaigns offer another opportunity for member engagement. The ACT government has called for submissions on VAD legislation, and HA has written a submission which you can read on our VAD campaign page. A monthly climate challenge is engaging members and encouraging them to undertake activities with their friends, potentially driving membership growth. The board has just approved position statements supporting the yes vote for the voice referendum and supporting the Uluru Statement from the Heart. Campaigns also give us the opportunity to engage with the media. Aged care is an area where religious chaplaincy is predominant, and there is strong potential to engage with the public on secular well-being in that sector. A holistic end-of-life service with preparation for death, celebration of life, voluntary assisted dying, and grief support for families would be highly valuable and has been recommended in HA's submission to the ACT government on voluntary assisted dying. There's an opportunity to partner with mental health organisations to train and accredit community wellbeing workers to offer wellbeing support in each community, another desperately needed service. So to summarise these programs, they are campaigns which fit within our advocacy mission goal. Ceremonies fits within our education mission goal. Communities fits within our communities mission goal, but also feeds into our support mission goal. And well-being fits into our support mission goal, but also contributes to our communities goal if we can get well-being support people into communities. And engagement is possible across all advocacy, education, and communities, but potentially also support. So those are the opportunities for growth. But we have to be realistic and look at what it's possible to achieve with the resources that we have. It's not possible for us to be pursuing all of those opportunities without attracting further resources. But let's start by looking at leveraging what we do have. What we do have is a network of people, including our board and staff, some contractors, our allies, our members, and our subscribers. We have a technical infrastructure set up, and we have a very small amount of funding. We think that probably the best way that we can leverage what we have to make the most of some of the opportunities open to us is by creating structured, guided working groups. These working groups would have a phased delivery, starting with formation, then having a kickoff to explore the strategic context and goals, having a period of planning during which the group develops a plan according to a template that is provided to them. The board would then review the plan and either request modification or accept the plan. And then the group would implement what they can with the resources that they are able to attract according to the plan. During implementation, the group would continue to communicate with their board sponsor, receive support through them. The working groups would be structured with a group coordinator, a board sponsor, a documenter, some subject matter experts, and perhaps some other volunteers. There would be guidance provided to these groups, starting with a kickoff. There could be a working group handbook. There is a template for a program plan. There would be mentoring and problem solving through the board sponsor. And they could develop their own working groups to help them work together effectively as a team. The keys to success of these groups would be that they have guidance and support, that they communicate well together and with the board through their sponsor, that there is a diversity of people in the groups, that their operations are transparent, that they have autonomy to work on their program, and that there is trust between the board and staff and working groups. So that's how we can leverage what we have to make the most of the opportunities that we've identified. We are making some progress in these areas. For communities, we have a communities working group that is meeting fortnightly, and we have the 3 pilot communities that we mentioned: Perth, Central Melbourne, and Canberra. Soon we hope to be able to call for expressions of interest in forming communities elsewhere. Before we do that, we need to have a plan in place for how we will support those potential community leaders, make sure that they are the right people to be leading a community on behalf of Humanists Australia, and make sure that there is guidance for them. For ceremonies, we are pivoting from marriages to life celebrations, and we have just signed a memorandum of understanding with Humanist Celebrant Network, which is a network of humanist celebrants that has been fundamental in having humanists recognised as celebrants within Australia, and in providing feedback to the Attorney General about celebrants who are humanist. Soon, we intend to engage with more celebrants and advertise to members and the public. For engagement, we have just begun holding national events that we intend to hold regularly. Most of these will be free for members and paid for non-members. We have an opportunity to engage our members through working groups. We are currently reviewing the Australian Humanist magazine. We had a volunteer who offered to create a pilot e-zine, which would be a reformatting of Australian Humanist in an online format. They're working on that at the moment. Coming up soon, we hope to be driving the quiz through new social media platforms, starting with Instagram, using our values to attract people to the quiz. We also need to review the Australian Humanist of the Year award and see how that fits into our strategic plan and what we can do with the resources that we have available for that. For campaigns, we have issued a media release on the topic of ACT VAD laws, and we have sent in a submission to the ACT government on that. And our campaign is currently linking through to the to the Dying with Dignity Victoria survey, although that survey is closing now. We have explored more opportunities to engage with our members through campaigns, starting with the Environment Challenge. We had a volunteer who offered to write challenges for our monthly Environment Challenge, and those are going out to people who've signed up to that. We have surveyed members and subscribers to get their opinions on these and other campaigns. Regarding our wellbeing program, we have a meeting with some interested people scheduled for a couple of weeks' time, and we hope to start kicking off that program if we get some more volunteers to fill that working group. In particular, I would love to explore the possibility of getting funding for a wellbeing program coordinator. Our membership manager, Ange Miller, has experience and qualifications in the wellbeing space, and she would be an excellent person to lead that working group. She's prepared to increase her hours if we can get some funding for her. I'd like to develop relationships with secular wellbeing providers such as Social Health Australia and perhaps Thriveability. And I'd like to be able to encourage communities to provide mental health first aid that's at a peer support level rather than at a professional level, so that people within our communities have someone to turn to if they feel they need support. The pilot community in Canberra is already holding monthly how's it going sessions where we talk about support that we need and support that we can provide each other, as well as talking about living life as a humanist according to humanist values. So you've heard about our opportunities for growth, how we're leveraging what we do have to make what progress we can on those 5 program areas. I'd like you all to perhaps close your eyes for a moment and engage your imagination and just ask yourself, what kind of a world would we be living in? What if we had 100,000 members? And this is a big, audacious goal, but it's an exciting one to think about. If we had 100,000 members paying $10 per month, that would give us an annual turnover of $12 million. We might compare ourselves to the Australian Christian Lobby, which they say, according to their website, they have 220,000 people who share ACL's vision. They have a turnover of $10.3 million per annum. They say, the ACL says, over 220,000 individuals share our vision to be a voice for God's truth in the public squares. Together, we're seeking to bring a Christian influence to politics. We want to see Christian principles and ethics accepted and influencing the way we're governed, do business, and relate as a society. With Australia now counting more non-Christians than Christians, we need our balancing voice in the public sphere. If we had our 100,000 members, we could have coordinators for each of our campaigns. We could have a media liaison person dedicated to getting our voice into the public sphere. For communities, we could have community leaders in every capital city and some larger towns. We could have a voice for humanists that comes from the grassroots and reaches state and national levels. We could have a diversity of community events. And it would be fantastic to have a communities coordinator who is dedicated to supporting and encouraging the growth of communities. For ceremonies, we could have training for inspirational humanist ceremonies, a world-class humanist celebrants listing, someone who's dedicated to celebrants training, and we could engage in some significant TV advertising to bring people in. That would really help us to spread the word about humanism to anyone who is celebrating life's milestones. For engagement, we could have a professionally edited and produced online magazine with a print edition for members who don't read online. We could hold regular events with renowned speakers. We could have a professional magazine editor and an events coordinator who's responsible for pulling together events and advertising for them and setting up the framework for them. For wellbeing, we could have training and accreditation for humanist wellbeing workers. We could have wellbeing support provided in every community. And maybe even we could have holistic end-of-life care centres providing palliative care, voluntary assisted dying, comfort for the dying, and grief support for families. We could have humanist wellbeing workers in aged care, the Defence Forces and prisons. We could have a wellbeing program coordinator. For our operations, we would dearly love to have a full-time CEO again. A fundraising coordinator could help us maintain ourselves on a sustainable financial footing. A finance officer could help us with our accounting. We could have a volunteer coordinator and a head of people. So how are we going to get there? How can you help us? We need you. If you can become a paying member, donate either to our operations generally, or if you like, you could donate just to one of our 5 programs. Help us spread the word. Help share our quiz, as that's a great way of bringing in more subscribers who we can then hope to convert to members through our engagement. We're holding a session at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, June the 6th, where we can explore together how we can get to 100,000 members. And I'd love to see you there at that session. In the meantime, I'll be soon advertising a members circle where any of our members can engage with our leaders to talk about how we get to 100,000 or about any other topics of interest in your journey with Humanists Australia. We also have coming up the first of our events with a well-known speaker. We have Bruce Pascoe speaking with us on the topic of the Indigenous voice to Parliament. If you'd like to join us on any of those events, find our meetup group, or you'll see them listed in our e-newsletter that comes out fortnightly. Did anyone have any questions? Liz.
I think you're doing a magnificent job, Mary-Anne. And I keep saying that because it's true. I do have a question. Humanists UK seem to be incredibly successful. I'm just wondering what contacts we've had with Humanists UK and whether they're what symbiotic relationship there's been, or what contacts we have had.
Andrew Copson was at the launch of Humanists Australia in 2020, and Heidi engaged strongly with Andrew Copson and with the Scottish humanist leader. I should remember his name, but sadly I've forgotten that now. Apologies. Now Heidi spoke with them about their model for financial sustainability, and her first strategic plan, which focused on ceremonies as the route to financial sustainability, was very strongly modelled on the Humanists UK model. Unfortunately, the environment for celebrants in Australia is very different from the environment for celebrants in the UK. And the focus on weddings that worked for the UK, it was clear it was not going to work here in Australia after Heidi invested a great deal of time and effort setting it up. So we have had to pivot to funerals, which is a better fit for our environment here. We have also engaged with Humanists UK in the quiz. They kindly gave us permission to use their quiz questions, and we set that up here. So we have had strong involvement with them. We're also engaging with Humanists International. And in fact, I am heading off to the Humanist World Congress in Copenhagen in July.
Oh, thanks, Mary-Anne.
Go ahead.
I've got another question.
Mm-hmm.
Traditionally for the churches, the big draw card for them when they were more traditional was that, hey, we can put you in contact with God and we can get you everlasting life. And that's why church attendance has plummeted, mostly since the Second World War, because the God promise wasn't that much of a promise anymore. So I'm thinking, what do you think would be the major attractor for an ordinary member of the public who was humanistically inclined to actually join Humanists Australia?
I think there are probably at least two factors there. There is wanting to live a meaningful, fulfilling and ethical life, and wanting to learn more about how to do that. And the second is to form strong, supportive relationships with other people who share the same values, and working with them as you are contributing to your society, contributing to making the world a better place.
No, thanks, Mary-Anne.
Paul, you have a question?
So just a couple of thoughts, really. One is that you mentioned Facebook as one of the main avenues for us communicating. And one of the things that, I mean, Facebook is strong, but it requires activity on your particular page. So, for example, where we've set something up here new in WA, Les very often likes what's being posted. Whether he agrees with it or whatever, it isn't the point. The fact that he's just put a like in there shows that there's activity on the site. And that's something that we perhaps need to think about, is how do we keep our Facebook page looking like it's very active? Because that then gets promoted to people's inboxes as something new has happened at this particular Facebook page. So that was one thing, one suggestion. The other thing that I found fascinating was when you were comparing the finances and numbers between potential humanists and the Christian lobby group, was you read out a statement about the Christians and what their goal was, and I actually felt that the antithesis of that was something that would be really interesting to people, in the sense that if people knew that this is what they stand for, I think many people would be horrified.
Yes, I was a bit horrified myself.
Yeah, quite. And I mean, I hadn't realized that it was just so explicit that they are really trying to push their views into the political realm. And I feel that that's an opportunity for us to make something of this, that, you know, we should be saying to people that this is what they're about. Is this really what you want of the world? And so just sort of sowing that seed, which is obviously a seed that you've already picked up on.
I do think it's hugely important that we are a balancing voice, providing the voice for reason and evidence and compassion. Sorry, we're getting a little bit of noise from your mic, Marissa. I'll mute you if that's okay. Oh, you've muted yourself. Thank you. I don't think it's productive for us to take a hardline anti-religious stance. I think instead we take the stance that we believe that everyone has the right to have their own beliefs and follow those beliefs as they see fit, as long as they do no harm to other people. But it's when religious beliefs start causing harm to others that we need to be a voice speaking up and opposing the voice of the Australian Christian lobby, in particular in the areas of voluntary assisted dying. And I noted also recently that the ACL has come out in opposition to the Indigenous voice to Parliament.
I don't disagree with what you've said, but the part that I was most interested in was the fact that they are actually saying, I mean, I can't remember it verbatim, but they are wanting to influence the political debate. They do want religious issues to be a much more central aspect of our political debate. And so I feel that that statement in itself is a powerful reason for people to saying, is that really what they're about? I don't support this. Are there other organizations that I do? And that's where we could then come in and say, so rather than making, just a specific campaign focus, I think that general statement itself is a powerful bit of ammunition that we could put to some use if, given some thought.
Thank you, Paul. I'll take that on board. Akiva, you're next.
Thanks, Mary-Anne. Seems very well thought through and very inspiring. Congratulations on your and everyone else's energy. My thoughts are on the education piece. I think partly you put the focus on educating all Australians about humanism. I think that was part of the mission, and that seems very worthwhile. I was just curious the role of self-interest, because there's within the personal development space, a lot of organizations that help people find their own well-being, live a good life, and so on. So whether maybe experience from Humanists International, from Humanists in the UK, offering people personal development options, relates obviously to the well-being piece, would be potentially a good way to, run courses like various universities around the place do over a period of time, and really engage people in their own, personal development, along with the working groups idea.
Yes, and that's something that we could explore through events. So if we start out in a small way with offering events on how to live a meaningful and fulfilling life, and incorporate aspects of personal development into those events, I think that would be a way that we could get started on that while we still only have limited resources.
Mm-hmm. Do you happen to know, just one quick follow-up for Humanists UK? I mean, I've seen some of their course material, which is sort of available as online books, like the kind of ebook model. Do we happen to know whether the Humanists UK have sort of rolled out, discussion groups and actively engaged a reasonable number of people in a how to live a good life type of format?
I'm not sure about what they're doing by way of events. I believe their communities are pretty autonomous, but they're looking at having them being given more centralized structure. It's something that I can ask them about when I'm at the World Humanist Congress in July. Thank you, Akiva.
Thank you.
Jeanette, you had a question?
I don't actually have a question, but I just wanted to say I missed the first part of it. I was on another Zoom, unfortunately, but what I'm hearing so far, I just wanted to say I'm really impressed, and I'm actually a health and wellbeing coach myself. And when you're talking about values and social media and filtering in the right people, quite often it's just finding out what's missing in people's lives. And what I've heard and noticed so far, I just love there's plenty of room there for personal empowerment, personal development, but we're all one. And when you look at all the different religions also, it all speaks the same language in a different way. So to keep it very neutral with maybe not pitching religion is a great way to go, just by going by the values of love and compassion and serving and oneness and connection, where people feel safe. So I just love everything that I've heard tonight.
Thank you so much, Jeanette. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Vince, you had a question?
Yeah, Mary-Anne, I've done a lot of work with startups and growth of companies, not in the in this space, but in the for-profit space. And what I've seen is that there's, you know, it's a catch-22 situation, because you're trying to do a lot of things to increase your finances, but at the same time, there's a fine balancing act there. And, you know, I think that, you know, your strategic plan is marvellous, and there's a lot in there. And I think you're going about it the right way by involving people, as many as possible. I was just wondering, you know, if you had your priorities, what would say the top 3 or so priorities would be in terms of getting members and funding, because I see that as the most critical areas to focus on. You can't bring in other staff members unless you've done that, unless you've got more finances. I was just wondering if, in your mind, you have, you know, say 3 areas that you really want to focus on in the next 12 months.
So we had a board meeting last night, during which I said to the board, our top priority right now needs to be looking after ourselves and looking after each other, because we've all been working extremely hard to get to where we are now, after losing our first CEO, Heidi, and our second CEO had to step out because of personal reasons. Pulling the new strategic plan together and starting to get these programs moving after those setbacks has required a great deal of work and energy being put in by our staff and by our board members. And we do need, as our top priority, to look after ourselves. My second priority is fundraising. Now, Heidi, our first CEO, just before we left, had engaged a fundraising consultant, and we have been trying to get some information from them about funding organisations and how we can apply for grants. And we're still working with them, trying to get the information that we need to progress with that. We are hampered to a certain extent by not having deductible gift recipient status. So while we can receive donations, we can't offer tax deductible donations. And that makes us ineligible for some grants. It makes us ineligible to list ourselves as a charity on GoFundMe even. So that is difficult. We are looking at auspicing perhaps through another organisation that does have DGR status to get us through those. So top 2 priorities, fundraising and looking after ourselves. Third priority is our Celebrants program. That was the program that Heidi had a great deal of hope in, that would help bring us onto a financially sustainable footing. We have the website that was nearly ready to go when we realised that we needed to pivot from marriages to funerals. We are close to the end of that process of getting the website ready for release. And it's a really high priority for me, because we have a very talented staff member who is our program coordinator for Celebrancy. And we have invested a great deal of time and effort in getting to this point, and we're very close to being able to start actually bringing in some people, getting the dual advantages of spreading the word of humanism out to the general public, and also getting some money in from the celebrants who list on our site.
Thank you, Mary-Anne.
Liz.
Hearing you talk about wellbeing program and who was it, Jeanette, you're already in the wellbeing space. I had a brainwave, like I have too often. There's a whole branch
That's one of my main failings, Les. I keep having brainwaves and then
yeah.
making work for myself and other people.
Yeah. There's a whole branch of psychology called humanistic psychology. And I'm thinking that's something we could really capitalize on in getting the message about humanism out to the audience. So I just was thinking about how we can incorporate that humanistic psychology into our events program. Maybe start off small with a 3 or 4 part series on different humanistic psychologists. So something for me and others to think more about.
Thank you, Les. Does anyone else have any other questions? Jeanette, you're muted, sorry.
It's not a question again. I don't know if this is useful, but I've run a program that I've written myself, and it's called Authentically You, and it's all about personal empowerment. It's all about values and all the stuff that you talk about, basically looking after yourself, and so you bring the best of yourself to wherever you are.
Yeah,
putting in boundaries, and yeah, it's all based on your own values of all of that sort of thing. So I don't know if there's a place for anything like that, but I'm happy to, put in some volunteer time.
oh, that would be great. Thank you, Jeanette. Would you get in touch with me, please?
Sure.
Through my
Yeah.
chair. It's chair@humanistaustralia.org. Actually, I've got my contact details on the final slide.
Oh, okay. I'll write that. Oh, yeah.
Howard, did you have a question?
Kind of suggestion about membership recruitment. I come from a trade union delegate and various other campaign background, and I've always found that the best way to increase membership is to firstly be involved in campaigns that other people are really interested in, and help to achieve results that matter to them, and also be in a position to share information about the achievements of your organisation. So you have a fact sheet. It depends on members wanting to actually do this, to actually get involved in campaigns where there are likely to be people interested. So, for example, I don't know, anti-euthanasia campaigns, that sort of thing, where the track record of the Humanists can be pointed out to people, and people can be involved closely with other activists and present the perspective of why it's important to take on the religions as the source of the obstacle for achieving the end result. So you'd have fact sheets as well to tailor for the particular audience. Anyway, it takes a fair bit of effort and organisation, but that's how I've found it normally works.
We do have 4 campaigns that we have on our website at the moment, but they have suffered somewhat because they don't each have a coordinator who can keep engaging in that campaign and getting information about that campaign out to people. So, but I do see campaigns as being an important way of bringing people to us.
I guess 2 other things would be to think about your target audience. So young people, for example, and young people would be likely to be interested, say, at the university stage, where they're taking on issues like, abortion and various other issues which have a religious aspect to them. And also, I guess, retirees
would be another thing to think of. I'm not sure what the angle would be there, but they're kind of the action would be different according to the different set of circumstances and the different demographic.
We're actually considering targeting at the moment people in the middle of life who are supporting elderly parents who may be going through the end of life, and also who may be raising children and want those children to be raised with humanist values.
Good.
Yeah, I love that.
Are there any more questions about the strategic plan? Well, thank you very much for coming, everyone. I really appreciate that you've taken the time to come and listen to our strategic plan tonight. I hope to see you at some of our future events, and in particular the follow-up to this, which will be on June 6th, where we talk about how we can contribute to getting towards that 100,000 member level.